Go bigger than a hell ring, things like you heard on the decks. Glover hold the court and give the chief no suspect. Politics in the mix, like double Stuart Rich. Spinning tales from Black Wall Street, real life's the pitch. Donnie Glover Show, read more news. Donnie Glover Show, read more news. Welcome to BeMoreNews.com, the news before the news, where we uncover the truth. How you doing, man?
Man, feeling well, man.
What's your name?
My name is Cardi Cornish.
And you a legend?
I'm a legend.
You're a legend here in Baltimore City. Where we at right now?
We live in the 17, Pennsylvania Avenue. The legendary Pennsylvania Avenue.
Man, the last time I saw you here, you were doing something just across the street here. What were you doing?
Oh, yeah, I had some food left over from an event. We brung it out. We fed a couple of people, man.
Why you do that?
Nice soul food.
Why you do that?
Man, the love that God has shown me in Christ, man, it overflows. That's how it overflows.
That's right.
We got more than we can use. We got more than we can handle ourselves. We try to let it flow. Let it flow to the next person.
Yeah. We're proud of you, man.
Thank you.
And we're proud of your son.
Thank you.
Keep watching BeMoreNews.com, the news before the news, where we uncover the truth. Business six hotter than lava. Got that Midas touch. Stocks and blocks teaching youngins how to clutch. Ears to the concrete, finger on the pulse, dropping wisdom like Hova. Each word a joke. Donnie Glover Show, be more news. 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 Walls painted black, history on lock. Blast off from Tulsa, rebirth like a clock. Markets rising from ashes to gains. Dying the narrator, truth runs in veins. Donnie Glover Show, be more news. 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 First name's Donnie, last name's Glover, in it to win it for the long haul, baby. John Rydell, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Donnie. How you doing?
Good. Attorney DeShield, how are you, sir?
Fine, Donnie. How are you? And how are you, John?
Doing well. Great.
Good. What's been happening with you, John? We haven't had you on in a while. This is Politics 26, by the way, Mr. DeShield, just so you know. The official campaign kickoff from a journalist perspective.
Okay.
Donnie, you're not running for anything, are you?
No, not me.
Okay, good. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, I know everything's great. Just been doing some traveling this summer. Went to Nashville for a few days, saw a couple of concerts, went down to Tampa to watch the Orioles. Some good games, bad games, but, having a good time.
How about you, Mr. DeShield?
Nose to the grindstone, Donnie, day by day, one day at a time. Nothing really exciting, nothing unusual, unfortunately, and no changes that I can see on the horizon.
Okay, and we also have with us Yolanda Pulley. Hello, Miss Pulley. Tell them who you are, for those who don't know.
Well, I'm Yolanda Pulley. My organization is called People Empowered by the Struggle. We meet people at their needs and we help them navigate through. We're out 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So if you, I heard of Mr. DeShields before. I think he used to be on a radio show or something on WOLB.
With Carlton Douglas, that's right. The Frank M. Conway show, that's right. And I think you're Jason, someone who you know is the engineer for that program, I believe.
Correct.
That's our boo. All right. So, any thoughts in general about next year's 26th election? Is it too soon to be talking about this, John?
Well, for the average person, I think it's too early to talk about the Maryland gubernatorial race and the race for the seats in the General Assembly and County Council. It seems like everybody's focused on what's going on in Washington, on Capitol Hill, the cuts, how it's going to impact Maryland. So it all ties together, but I think the average person is just trying to figure out how they're going to be impacted by what's going on in D.C. right now. But if you're running, whether you're Governor Moore or someone else, this is a time for fundraising and soliciting donors. I don't think you're going to do a lot of outreach to voters right now, but it's a critical time. And believe it or not, we're less than a year away from the Maryland primary.
Mm-hmm. Well, listen, we have a special guest online with us, Miss Alice Torriente. How you doing, Miss Alice?
Fine, thank you. How are you?
Good. We know that you are the superior scholar when it comes to politics, global, national, local. So welcome to the show.
Thank you, Donnie. You're giving me too much credit. I just like to try to keep my eyes on what's going on.
Okay, well, what's been going on? What's caught your eye?
Well, what caught my eye, most of all, locally, was what had happened on North and Pennsylvania. It was just such a terrible thing that those people got those drugs and were killed. And there still may be some that we don't know about who may have gone home alone. And so oftentimes they say that the people who are doing the drugs put out what they call testers if they have a new product. And of course, people want free things. And so they come and get those testers and they don't know what they're taking. And oftentimes unavoidable things happen. So that has been really a concern that I have.
Yes. And my understanding is, well, there's no need in going into what and how, but what else have you been watching, Ms. Torriente?
Well, you know I've been watching the national news as far as what's been going on with the case of the gentleman who was trafficking with the young girls, the Epstein activities. That's been quite something. And I've also been looking at what's been going on with this 500 tons of food that's going to be burned rather than distributed among the people who are hungry across the world and here in the United States. That to me is absolutely criminal. So we're going to see what's going on with the Epstein saga. Interesting, some of the people who have been Trump's acolytes and who have said amen for everything he's asked them to do are now disagreeing with him and saying that whatever information they have about Epstein should be released. So that's going to be quite interesting. I had some friends who lived in the Virgin Islands, and they were there when all of the activity was going on with Epstein. And from what they're telling me is that the former governor and his wife gave Epstein free rein to do whatever it was he wanted to do when he was bringing the girls down there. And so, of course, nobody's saying going after them for anything. They're getting off scot-free. But there is an African-American woman who is the congressperson who represents the Virgin Islands, and they're going after her who did nothing but take a campaign contribution from Epstein. So I'm waiting to see how that's going to play out as well.
Wow.
Well, Donnie, let me chime in just a tad. I want to clarify some things because you have to listen to what Trump says very carefully, and because we draw conclusions as though we can understand it at face value. First of all, Trump talked about Pam Bondi as though she could make a decision independent of his judgment as to what to release and what not to release. And we know that's not true. We know that Pam Bondi, like everybody else who works for him, does exactly what he says and only what he says. Secondly, he said she should release all credible information. He didn't say release it all. So you have to listen. You have to listen very carefully to what he said. And now he said finally to those who insist upon his so-called the Marjorie Taylor Greens and those other of that ilk, his so-called that segment of the MAGA base. He said to them, go take fly a kite. I don't need you anymore. I don't want you. You're not my supporters. I don't care. So So he has actually drawn a line, and that's his way of saying you ain't gonna know anything more from him about Epstein and his list than you know now.
Well, the other thing is, he was this afternoon. He was talking about how many times Clinton had been on the plane, and he's been on there 27 times. And when you get the information, he's not a friend of mine, and you need to see about Clinton because he's been on that plane all these times and what have you. And he's trying to put it on Biden, something that's supposed to have happened to a Biden administration when it did not. So he talks out of both sides of his mouth. So if we are ever going to get the information, it should be very interesting, aside from the fact that there's supposed to be a 1 minute time frame at taking of the camera that was at the jail cell where Epstein was, and that's supposed to be missing. So that's going to be interesting. And aside from that, I don't recall any of the guards being having a problem as a result of Epstein not being covered and him being able to kill himself, supposedly. So some people are saying that Epstein may be still alive someplace else, so we don't know. But anyway, there's a lot left up in the air to this mystery.
Good deal. Well, Aunt Alice, thank you for joining us. Any other thoughts you wanted to share?
Well, no, not right now. I don't. Let's see. Well, the other thing is, in Los Angeles, I've been watching that. Trump has finally said that they're going to remove the National Guard from Los Angeles and the Marines. So that's interesting because there was no necessity for them being there anyway. Mm-hmm. So I just hope that we're able to get all these things in line. And sometimes I'm just so depressed with the news that I hear that I have to just turn it off and do something else because it's not getting any better. But let's hope and pray that it will. That it will be humane to each, that we can be humane to each other, because what I'm looking at right now, which is not being humane.
Mm-hmm. Let me just get this in there. As we talk about politics 26, any candidates who you have been watching? Have you been watching anyone new on the scene?
I have a couple, but they haven't announced yet. So I can't say. I've been looking at New York, though. I've been looking at the race in New York very closely. It's very, very interesting what's going on there.
Which race? The mayor's race?
The mayor's race, yes. I understand that Cuomo is going to run as an independent. So if he's running as an independent, and if the current mayor is running as an independent, Adams, that's going to really knock each other off. And I understand the young man, I have difficulty pronouncing his name, the one who won the Democratic primary, met with the business leaders in New York, trying to assure them that, as to how he was going to, do what he wanted to do. So I understand some were pleased, some were not, some were still questioning. So that's going to be a very, very interesting general election when that comes to pass.
Good deal. Aunt Alice, thank you again for joining us. And we got to bring you back next week. We'll be every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Politics 26.
My pleasure.
Good deal.
Have a blessed evening.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. We got a new guest. We have a guest who's coming on. This young man is running for office. Mr. Bob, I want you to, actually, John, you're the guest host for today. I need to step out for a second and get my coffee. Can you run this interview with this young man, Mr. Rydell?
Oh, I think I can. Yes.
Okay. Well, I'll let you handle it. I pass him on.
You got it. Okay. Hello. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty well, Mr. Rydell. I believe we've spoken before. How are you?
That's right. Right. Introduce yourself to everybody and tell us where you're running, what district, and who you are.
Yes, my name's Anderson Jean, and I am running for Maryland House of Delegates, District 40, next year in 2026. Families from Haiti, grew up in Connecticut and in Florida, and I'm also involved in academia, but I'm really interested in seeing how we can make Baltimore, it's a great place to live, but make it an even greater place to live, and making sure that we're improving in our infrastructure, job creation, education, and safety for the citizens of this great city. So that's me in a nutshell.
Now, the 40th district, for people that aren't familiar with that, it's Baltimore City, and it's a very wide district that includes, I think it includes part of Hamden and areas west and Penn North, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, all right. You're obviously, we've already talked about it a little bit about what happened at Penn North last week, and just some terrible scenes. And you wonder if there wasn't Narcan around, what the outcome would have been, and far worse. What do you do if you're running for office, and that seems to be the epicenter of a lot of challenge? How do you approach that?
Well, the thing is, I think one of the things we have to address we have to look at what the issues are. And I know there's an issue with narcotics in that area. And so the question is, how do we address the issues in terms of rehabilitation, making sure that those folks are getting the services that they need, and that we're not viewing it as from a punitive perspective, but it's being viewed as a perspective where we're putting them through rehab, and also once they're done with rehab, putting programs and services in place for them to get them back into society. So that's the approach I would take with that. Moving forward, that's what I would do.
To an outsider, they're going to look at that intersection and just conclude that it's nothing but trouble. And I was there, a little over 10 years ago, covering the unrest, and it was you could hardly believe, breathe with all the smoke. But and I've been kind of removed from a lot of the reporting, but I can tell you where the open air drug markets are, right in back of the CVS store at the Penn North. Now, I don't know what the police have done. It's troubling that I view myself as an outsider, and I know where the open air drug market is. I mean, have you contacted the police, or is this a priority of just saying, okay, if people know where these open air drug markets are, what's being done to curb that activity?
Well, the thing is, once again, I would not view it from a punitive measure of calling the police. I mean, these folks need help. And so the question is, how do we address the core issue? And so I think the easy thing to say is call the police and have them arrested and thrown in jail. But then once they're released, they're back on the street. So the question is, how do we address the core issue? And that is creating rehab programs that can address the core issue. And then once they're done, not just throw them back on the street, but also putting programs in place, whether it's job placements, home placements for them, so they can become normal citizens again in our society and take place in the liberties that we enjoy as American citizens. And so that's the approach I would take. But again, calling the police and having them arrested and then in and out of jail is a quick fix. But the question is, how to long-term fix for them and also for the citizens of this great city.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Does anybody else have a question?
Anderson, who are the incumbents in the 40th?
So the incumbents are Marlon Amphrey, Melissa Wells, and Frank Conway Jr.
Okay. And who's the senator there?
Senator Antonio Hayes.
Okay. Now, and is there any indication that either of the current delegates intends to resign or retire from the legislature?
I have not discussed that with them.
Is either of them announced, is what I mean.
Once again, our focus is on making sure that we are running a campaign that's going to be suitable for the citizens of the 40th district. So we're not, I have not, talked to the incumbents in terms of what they plan to do. But what I plan to do is to make sure that we bring the programs for the citizens in the 40th district to make sure that we make their lives better and make this overall the city of Baltimore a better place to live moving forward.
Why do you think you can do a better job than the people who are there now?
Well, because the thing is, why I can do a better job is because I would make sure that I talk to the folks on the ground and get an understanding of what they need and not the same politics as usual. And so our campaign is focused on, it's centered around the folks, talking to people on the ground, getting a deeper understanding what they need, and going pushing forward for programs that would support them in the long run, and not just go down to Annapolis and engage in politics as usual.
I mean, isn't it pretty clear that the people in the fourth need the same thing as poor people everywhere? They need more money. And I mean, and how can you ultimately achieve that with the economy, not just in the 40th or in the city or even in the state for that matter? How can you ultimately eliminate poverty with you have an economy that's founded upon maintaining it?
Well, the thing is, once again, it's going to come through the jobs that we create, tax cuts, and also creating jobs for those folks. And that's going to come through having conversations with those folks on the ground. So that's the best that we can do at this point, talking to the people, seeing what they need. Because again, yes, they need jobs. Yes, they need more opportunities in the 40th district. And so it's a case by case, can't compare all the districts. They're not all the same. But the question is, what jobs do these folks need? What are the services? Quality of education, public safety. And so these are the programs that we're planning to push if elected. But again, those conversations are had at the ground level with the citizens within that district. So it's not a one size fit all for everyone living in the 40th district.
Can I intervene real quick?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I'm Yolanda Pulley. My organization is People Empowered by the Struggle. Yeah. One-stop shop for all struggles. When was the last time you've been on Pennsylvania Avenue?
The last time I've been on Pennsylvania Avenue, I was there yesterday.
Okay, so you should know that it's 1 million programs around there. It's 1 million detox around there. Matter of fact, is oversaturated with so-called wraparound services. It's oversaturated with mental health services. It's oversaturated because that's the first people that's being targeted. That's why you have Penn North, you have Emerge, you have a lot of them down there on Pennsylvania Avenue. And I'm outside. Matter of fact, I just sent Donnie a video earlier where they gave this guy Narcan, and he jumped up and he started fighting the police. So my thing is that we don't need to cradle an addict anymore. So if we're going to do something conducive, public intoxication is on the books. I understand that, it shouldn't be criminalized. But why is it that we're criminalizing alcohol, but we are not criminalizing people that's sitting up there shooting up outside or sniffing dope outside or smoking coke outside? That's insane to me. And we sit up there and watch it all day, every day. And it's against the law to have it. So why is not against the law to use it outside? I'm not saying that people should not be able to do what they want to do because it's their life. Just don't do it outside. So if you want to make your campaign stronger, you do not need to be catering. I'm just saying, because I ran for mayor. Don't cater to the ones that that's outside. Like I don't understand. Like if you have the police officers that's sitting on Pennsylvania Avenue or riding around Pennsylvania Avenue, when does this become a public safety hazard? And when does it become a health hazard? When you have these people nodding in the middle of Fulton Avenue, on the middle of North Avenue, all the way down Pennsylvania Avenue, and they ducking them like potholes, and people on the streets is ducking them out like they're road cones. It's insanity to me that we keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Now, what my organization did, because when I ran for mayor, I had a plan for our addicted community. And our plan was to take them back to drug court and give them a carrot on a stick. The carrot on the stick is once they go into drug rehab and, they become clean, then we give them the tiny house community. And in that tiny house community, everything that they need is right there. Everything. You got your social workers, you got your addiction clinic, you got your NA meetings, you got your little store in there, you have your laundry facility. You have to give these people a carrot on a stick or they'll never get high. Us sitting up there saying, oh, well, we can't force them into treatment. I'm very passionate about this because Pennsylvania Avenue took my son's father. He died from an OD a year and a half ago when he bought narcotics on Pennsylvania Avenue. And he walked up to his mother's house and died on the porch. He never even made it in the house. Matter of fact, he was there all night. His mother walked out the door and found his body on the steps. Somebody called my son in school and told him, his brother called my son in school and told him that daddy's gone. So when do we stop looking at, he don't even want to go to his grandmother's house because he sees a tombstone sitting right there where his father is. So I think that something else has to be done. We can't keep catering to nonsense. It's not okay for you to not get a public intoxication from alcohol. So it should be the same way with narcotics.
Right. No, and the thing is, my condolences, obviously, for what you've had to endure. And I do agree, accountability is important on all levels. There has to be a sense of accountability. At the same time, a lot of these people, they need help. And so the question is, how do we hold them accountable at the same time, give them the help that they need? Because again, we can go down there and have them arrested or given a citation, but the
citation, not arrested.
Right, case of citation. Now, does that solve the issue if they're back on the street 4 or 5 days or a week later? So the question is, two things can be true. We could hold them accountable, but at the same time, make sure that the services that they need are being provided. Now, are we going to be able to reach everyone? Absolutely not. But I do believe that we need to make sure that, those folks, once again, are held accountable at the same time, are given the services that they need to move forward in life. And so our stance on that.
How do we help the working people in the 40th district who are overworked and underpaid and underemployed? I mean, how do I have as much compassion as anyone for anyone who needs help for any reason, but the bottom doesn't lift the top. Only the ones at the top can lift what's beneath them. How do we help the people who can't supervise their kids because they're working 2 and 3 jobs? How do we change a school system where D is a passing grade? I mean, how do we help the people who can serve as models for the people that you're talking about that need help? People covet. Hannibal Lecter said, you covet what you see, and if you don't see success around you, then what do you have to strive for? So how do we help the people who are not at the bottom but who are in the middle, stuck in the middle somewhere with nowhere to go? How do we help them?
Well, the thing is, as someone who's taught in the Baltimore City school system, I've seen it firsthand, what education can and can't do. I've taught for 5 years now as someone who's involved in academia. And I do agree with you, a D shouldn't be a passing grade. As someone who's been in the classroom, who's worked with students, who's taught students on all levels, I believe accountability should be placed in the classroom, making sure that we're providing a 21st century education for our students, which is what I have done as an educator myself. Now, in terms of, to answer your question about working class families, I do believe that we do need to look at overall what we need to make sure that Baltimore has a lot of healthcare workers. The question is, how do we incentivize companies to come to the city of Baltimore, and also how do we raise them, give these folks a working wage? Now, there are a variety of ways to look at this. One of the things we can do is, I'm a proponent of small businesses, incentivize people to create small businesses within those districts, so it'll be more accessible for folks to make it to work, because not everyone has a car. I do believe in giving companies, incentivizing companies to come to the city of Baltimore to build plants out here so they could hire more workers. So those are some of the ways we can create more opportunities for those in the working class. Also, I'm a big proponent of trade schools. Not every child's going to go off to college, and we've seen the studies how people are going to college and getting degrees, but at the same time, they're not. When they graduate, they can't. There isn't a marketplace for it. So, encouraging our kids to go into trades, where they can also get against these programs where they're getting paid and learning the trade. And so I think these are some of the things that we could look at moving forward, not only to help the middle class, but also to help kids that are coming out of high school to have a job and not go to a 4-year college, which is a good plan, but it's not for every child. So then they can learn a trade and make money and support their family.
Anderson John, we'd like to welcome Andy Pierre to the show. Hi, Andy. How are you?
How you doing? How you doing? How's everybody doing today?
Doing
Hello.
well. Andy, quick question. Are you Haitian?
Yes.
I'm Haitian too. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. It's always nice to meet another Haitian in Baltimore City.
Absolutely.
That's,
any questions for Anderson?
You said what?
Any questions for Anderson? We were just about to close out this segment as you joined us.
Well, I missed a lot of what you said, but I did. So you're running in the 40th district. Do you have a bead on who's running?
Well, I know I haven't heard. I know Mr. Braxton Street is running, and I haven't heard anything about the incumbents not running. So thus far.
And you filed already?
Say what?
Have you filed already?
I can't hear the last part.
Have you filed already? Filed to run?
I cannot hear you. I missed.
The question is, have you filed?
I can't hear you guys.
He asked, "Did you file to run?"
I know, but I can't hear you guys.
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, I can't hear anybody.
Okay. Well, thank you for joining us, and we'll bring you back soon. Okay. What else is going on? What's happening in your world, Andy?
Well, I got a few clients and a few negotiations as far as what's going on in 2016. Various spot work and stuff like that. A couple clients haven't announced yet, so I didn't want to blow up their spots. But this is going to be an interesting election year, especially with some of the faces that I know are running. Some of the newer faces who are jumping into the big leagues, and they actually have no idea what they're about to run into. And then you have some legacy folks who are coming into the game and they're going to challenge. So it's going to be real exciting. And you got Clyde Boatwright on in Baltimore County doing his thing.
Mr. Bob, any candidates run across your desk yet?
All right. Other than fundraising, I've been inundated with requests from both, mostly from incumbents, but some newcomers have. The lady who's running for state's attorney in Baltimore County. In fact, I've contributed to her because I think almost anybody would be better than the guy that's there now, at least for Black people. Mm-hmm. But Andy, do you think that there's going to be a change in the control of the House and or the Senate in Washington?
In Washington?
Yes.
That's hard to say because the DNC is going to be the big decider there. In my opinion, only because the last few election cycles, they have been not putting their money where they should be putting them in. They're not putting the money on the ground. And, you see a whole congressional races running and they don't have a field operation. And it's like, how are you supposed to win if your people ain't at the doors? You know what I mean? How are you supposed to win if your people ain't, if they're without that human touch, without that human element? And so it could go either way. And, in my opinion, with Trump's definitely going to get out there and he's definitely going to push and he's going to fight to get his folks through. I'm just curious to see who's going to, take that leadership role. I know the new chair of the DNC, he's more of a fundraiser, right? Like, he's not a campaigner. Like, I think O'Malley should have placed higher because he is a campaigner, right? He loves signs a little too more than I care much for him, but like, he gets that's where his bread and butter is at, right? Campaigning. And so I feel like the what the DNC does is going to have a bigger bearing on how this thing plays. In the long run, do I think there's a chance that we take back over? Sure. Mostly because there's already a lot of people can pick out stuff that they're annoyed with Trump. And so that's kind of like they don't need a lot of points to get, to flip the seats.
So
John,
do you think it's time for a change of the old guards?
That's debatable, only because down in the Rayburn building, seniority means a lot. But with that said, there are certain people who are getting to a certain point in their life when they earnestly and honestly should be enjoying their golden years. They don't need the stress of trying to worry about what the needs and the fate of millions of Americans, after they've already put in 40 plus years of work on the subject.
John, let me get this question into you. There's some names in state politics we really don't talk much about. Mm-hmm. And a part of my interest always is in who's next, who's on deck, not just in the realm of journalism, but also in the realm of politics. Who's emerging in Annapolis, in Baltimore City? So one name what comes to mind is the treasurer, Derek Davis. Also, the comptroller, Brooke Learman. Then there's the attorney general, Anthony Brown. All of these people, I would imagine, wouldn't mind being governor. I don't know if that's in their trajectory, if that's in their plans, but any thoughts on some of the statewide names? Because, Westmore, who knows where this guy may go?
Well, I can't imagine that Governor Moore is going to be defeated by anybody. This was a tough session, and there's a deficit of more than $3 billion, and there's a lot of soul searching as to how to reduce that, and some increases in taxes and fees. And of course, whoever challenges him is going to make a big deal about it. But he's an incumbent Democrat in Maryland, and he's not going to be defeated in the primary. And you've probably seen that Ed Hale, the owner of the Baltimore Blast and First Mariner Bank years ago before it was sold, he's saying that he's going to run for governor. Good luck. He's a nice guy. I've dealt with him through the years and always available to be interviewed. But Ed Hale's he's 78 years old. So hypothetically, if he got elected, he would be 80 years old. So he would be older than Biden and Trump just getting into office. I mean, we're presidents, obviously. So I don't know what motivates people. Perhaps a number of people said maybe you could do better, you wouldn't increase taxes, but I think that's just, I don't think it's going to happen. And on the Republican side, whoever's running, there's a state delegate from Frederick County and Carroll County. It's insignificant. Everyone is waiting to see whether former Governor Larry Hogan would decide to run again. And apparently, I had to check with somebody on this, he could actually run again, even though he served 2 terms, because all it says in the Maryland Constitution is that you can't serve 2 consecutive terms.
More than 2 consecutive terms.
More than 2 consecutive terms. That's correct. So he couldn't, now this is a totally different atmosphere than it was when he ran, because, it was an open seat technically. So he ran against Anthony Brown the first time, who's now the Attorney General. And then 4 years later, he ran against Ben Jealous. But Governor Moore is a very popular governor, and these are totally different times. And I would be surprised if Larry Hogan got into the race.
I got to put this out there. I was sitting the other day down on Pratt Street, right opposite McKeldin Plaza, and he was the last Republican. And this guy had a stellar career. He was like Donald Schaefer. He was mayor, and then he was governor. And if I'm not mistaken, he came back to be mayor again. But in any event, he was a Republican. And I'm just curious, do you think Hogan is McKeldin-ish at all?
I don't know what's.
Do you think he could come back and win?
I don't think he could, because these are different times, and he's going against a very popular incumbent governor of Maryland, and we're seeing more and more of Governor Moore on the Sunday morning talk shows, as we did with Larry Hogan, because Hogan had a niche there. He was always against Trump, and that helped him in Maryland. But Wes Moore is getting a lot of publicity. To discuss him as a potential presidential candidate, I think it's too early. Maybe it's in the back of his mind, but he's focused right now on just winning re-election and trying to control the budget situation and crime and things like that.
Well, I'm trying to figure out the difference. So if you have more publicity on TV, but you don't have any in the streets, that's a problem, because the ones that I talk to in Baltimore City is not a fan of Wes Moore anymore. They feel like that he came and he lied and then he left. And to be honest, I feel the same way, because I talked to the guy several times while he was campaigning. And as soon as he won the election, he changed all his phone numbers. So nobody that had his phone numbers then have his phone numbers now. He is like disconnected from what's going on in our communities. And what has he actually done to help Baltimore City besides show up and show a picture in crisis? And then you have to look at the deficit that we were put in because of Wes Moore. All them people that was laid off, they're not a fan of him anymore, and they have family members. So I don't see how he has made anything better for the state of Maryland, but I damn sure don't see how he has made anything better for Baltimore City. Just my opinion.
Well, all right.
Yeah.
Okay, let me ask anybody following the 41st district, the Senate race?
Oh yeah. Yes, Delegate Malcolm Ruff. That's my man's 10 grand. Full disclosure, I do. That's one of my clients, but we're cooking up some pretty good stuff here, because essentially we have a very good understanding of who our opponent is. We very much understand where her weaknesses are, and we have a plan to outwork her. And so, really, at this point, we just gotta get the polling data back, and then we can share it on Donnie Glover's show first. That way we know we could see where we're starting, and work on that and grow our base. Like, the thing is, like, Malcolm is probably one of the most accessible candidates. Like, if you hand him a piece of paper, he will read it. You got a lot of the delegates and senators who you hand them a piece of paper, they're gonna forget about it. They're like, if you have an issue, he is going to listen, and if it's something that he can help with, he will. And I think that is a feature, an attribute that the people will appreciate, as long as they know. And this thing is about to be a dogfight. I don't, between Tar, as where her camp comes from. They're not no slouches. But I feel like this thing is going to boil down to how many new voters that we could bring to the table. There's we have the majority in the district, but our turnout percentages are very low, which means that a small block of voters are able to take over a district. So what we need to do is we need to flush our voters. Kind of wish it was back in the day where y'all had black captains and stuff like that. There was like a serious information network that we're missing now.
Mr. Bob,
we're also missing education.
Mr.
voters'
Bob, I wanted
education.
to talk with you about voter apathy in the Liberty Road corridor. Are the people in the 10th district out there as politically astute as they need to be?
No, I don't think people anywhere are as politically astute as they need to be. People, this thing called that we refer to as democracy really only works with it works the way that we would like it to work if there's an educated, well-informed electorate. We don't have that. And even worse, we have a group of people who call themselves leaders who see it as their mission to keep the people dumb.
Mm-hmm.
And I was going to ask Andy, what I started in there. I'm not a politician and know less about it than anybody on this screen, but I started with a guy. I started with a guy called Perrin Mitchell, and his mission was two things. One, we always tell people the truth and try to educate the people, give the people the facts.
Mm-hmm.
Now we just give the people sound bites, so we try to appeal to the emotion of what makes them feel good and not the truth. So much so that people think, as Rudy Giuliani sometimes says, the truth isn't always the truth, or maybe as Kellyanne Conway said, there's alternative facts. So you know, people believe what if you say it enough times, people believe it, or if you say it in a certain way, if you say it with a certain passion, if you have
Be
a little
loud enough.
rhyme, if you're loud, or if you can rhyme like Hakeem Jeffries.
Mm-hmm.
Or people. If you pay, you make people sing and dance, and then they do what you tell people. People are not informed, and what's even more worse than that, too many people don't want to be.
True.
And I
That's
don't
it.
think the people on Liberty Road corridor are no different than the people in the 40th district or the 41st district or any other district. You've got to people, you've got to appeal, you've got to make people feel about something before you get their interest, but you can't have them make decisions based on their feeling.
Mm-hmm.
The anatomy has many parts. You're not supposed to think with your behind. You're not supposed to think with your feeling. That's what the brain is for.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the problem. Nobody's thinking anymore. If you look, I heard the other day a woman from Iran, I think it was a native country. She was deported, or sent to a detention center, separated from her family and kids. And she said, "I don't care. I love the ground Trump walks on." Now, what kind of Kool-Aid did she drink? What was the flavor? What was it sweetened with? Come on, that's
It
not a
was
thing. That's
it
not
was
a
sweetened
thing.
with Stockholm syndrome. They
Yeah,
always run back to their abuse.
yeah. That's not even the feeling of a thinking person, let alone the logic or an analysis of a thing. People don't think anymore. People just repeat what they've heard, and what's worse is they think that because they repeat it is true.
Well, that just goes to the old saying that if you repeat it so many times, you start to believe it yourself. Now, my
Mm-hmm.
thing with the 41st district, I live in the 41st district, and I have never, and I wish I could find that book that I had. Dahlia Tarr sent out these books to the 41st district of her accomplishments in the 41st district as a delegate and as far as her being the sitting senator. The problem that I had was it didn't say nothing about black people. It said nothing about it said nothing about what she done in the lower part. So some of her parts is still like towards Emerson Village. What has she done with that? Like nobody knows who she is. Now if I had my choice, I would definitely back Huff.
Right.
Because one, I know him. Two, I can talk to him. Three, I can call him when I have a problem. That's the type of delegation, that's the type of leadership, and that's the type of people we need that's running. If I can't talk to you, if I can't put my hands on you, what am I voting for you for? And another thing with voter I call it voter ignorance. Not saying that they're ignorant, but it's voter ignorance because they only go by what they see on TV. They only go by who pushes it out in the media. And that's a problem because, you know, when I ran for mayor, a lot of people said, "Oh, I didn't know you was running." Nobody ever taught them to go to the Board of Elections, look up who's running, and start Googling what these people have actually done in the community. And just like I tell people, whether I'm in the seat or not, Yolanda is still out here on the ground, and I have never left the streets. So they call me the street mayor. It would just be better, and I could help more people if I actually became mayor.
John Rydell, any advice for newcomers to the game, to the political game?
Well, I'm not sure about that. That's going to be a very interesting race in the 41st because Delia Attar was not elected as a state senator. The delegate came in to replace her. So, who knows what's going to happen in that race? But talking about voter apathy, whether you live in Baltimore County or Baltimore City, to me, the average person, they're not focused on the legislators, General Assembly. They're looking at TV and they're just, what in the world is going on in this world?
Right.
Meantime, they're trying to keep their job. They're trying to pay the rent,
Right.
and they go to the grocery store and whatever, the cost of eggs and everything. I mean, it's just amazing when you go to the grocery store and what somebody in front of you with 3 kids or something like that, the grocery bill. So the idea of who's running for state delegate, it does get lost in the shuffle because TV, they don't have time to cover individual races like that. But one thing in Baltimore County, because they're increasing those districts from 7 to 9, and I don't think that process has been completed yet. Donnie, is that correct, that they haven't finalized the maps?
I know they just had one major meeting last week, and they were having them in different parts of the district.
Okay.
So I believe it's a work in progress, but nonetheless, it will have some type of impact on the county executive race.
Well, sure it will. And I think hopefully there'll be a lot more publicity wherever you get your news about that, because it is, we talked about it, a year ago, there was the initiative to try to increase it by 4 seats, but okay, 2 more seats. That means that there are going to be at least 2 new people. You hope that there'll be a bigger turnover because some of these guys, and they're men, have been in there many, many years. So hopefully there'll be more publicity online or wherever you get your news. And maybe that will motivate more people to say, well, wait, what district am I in? Am I in the 10th now, or whatever districts they are? I'm in the 10th. Years ago, I was in the 11th. But I bet if I polled people in my neighborhood, they might not even know what district they're in terms of legislative districts. So,
and that's on all 3 levels: the federal level, the state level, and the local level.
Yeah, who's my member of Congress? A lot of people may not know because that has switched through the years.
Well, somebody has got to have the courage to step out and say, I can run and I can win and I can do it against all the odds. Electioneering and campaigning is a big business. It's a multi-billion-dollar business, and it's like every other business. The ones with the money control it. And you can't look at the race between Angela Alsobrook and David Trone as an anomaly. It's not like Angela didn't have any money. She didn't spend as much money as he did, but she had plenty of money. So the question is, if you're going to concede the process, if you're going to concede the game to the right to make the rules or the ability to make the rules to those who have the much money, then we're lost anyway. We're lost anyway, because the losers will always be those who are currently losers. And that group is going to get larger and larger and larger as it has. The fundamental and the problem is nobody wants to talk about the real issue. The real issue is too few people have too much and too many have too little and don't see any way of changing that. And unless you address that, we're on the boat called the Titanic. We keep arguing about who's going to sit in what chair on what deck. The fucking boat is going down.
Well, I don't know what communities y'all live in, but in Baltimore City, I can tell you the people that I service, the people that I run into, and the people that I talk to, they couldn't even tell you the 3 branches of government. Not on the state level, not on the city level.
Pitiful? Isn't that pitiful?
It is, because they took it out of our educational system. When I was growing up, and we had to actually write essays about the mayor Donald Schaefer, and what do we see him doing, and this, that, and the third. But unfortunately, I don't know if y'all. I know the county is better educated about the 3 branches of government and how to run for seats than Baltimore City. Yes, they are.
They may know the knowledge. I push back on that.
No, and it's not. It really isn't true. I was on the county school board. I can tell you that ignorance is not geographical.
Well, they seem like
it's not geographical.
They seem like they're better educated.
Well, that's because that's what the media portrays. Just like the media portrays that the majority of people on welfare are black. That's never been true. Right. Just like the media portrays, man. The only 6 corporations that control all the media in this country. 6 companies control, and they're all owned by the same people. Okay. So when you say you can't believe what you see or hear on television, you're absolutely right. Because what you see on television is programming at all levels. There's no news anymore. It's all for entertainment or indoctrination purposes. That's all it is. And unless you instill in people the desire to have knowledge and the willingness to work to get it, knowledge is like anything else. Nobody's going to hand it to you. If you want it, you got to go get it. You got to spend some time searching. You got to spend some time reading. You got to spend some time doing your own research. Now, you can't do that if you can't read, and you're not going to be able to read. When I started school, if you knew your ABCs, you were ahead of the class. Hell, these days, if the kids start school already, they're reading by the time they're 3 and 4 years old. We didn't even have kindergarten when I started. But now you don't. Now you've taken away the desire for kids to go to school, because under the guise of fiscal responsibility, you strip the schools of some of the main attractions for kids. You strip the schools of the arts. You strip the schools of many sports. You strip the schools of many extracurricular activities that became the main attraction for some kids even to come. If you're not in the classroom, there's no hope that the teacher's going to be able to teach you, even if the teacher wants to. And teacher wanting to is another problem. Teacher expectation is a whole nother issue. So we talk about we want to make a change, and people doing the same thing the same old way. We got to stop and think about how we're thinking about it. We're the ones who are keeping it the same old way because we keep repeating what other people say.
Any final thoughts before we close? Good deal. Thank you, everyone. We'll be back next week, same time, and of course, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. John, Yolanda, Mr. Bob, thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Good evening.
Goodbye.
Thanks, Donnie. Take care.